What's up, YouTube? I wanted to do a video response to a girl, a YouTuber that's, sorry, somebody's yelled in the background, somebody's speeding by. A video response to a girl named Go Green on YouTube. She's a YouTuber. Very smart girl, as far as I gather from her. She's done a lot of good things. But she asked me, I was talking about how science is just, I don't think it's a cult or, but I think it's just very misleading to people and shows one side of the story. Instead of doing what science says, it is. They violate their own definition by their actions. The science is supposed to evaluate and report, from my own personal evaluations, from using their science I can use their science to disprove their science, how they don't work and how they lie. They just plain out lie in a lot of places, and they don't take into account easy. I'm not a brainiac or a great scientist myself. I'm just a researcher. I don't have a PhD or a college degree, for that matter. But things like heat, they tell you that all the matter in the world and gas is matter, and so all the matter in the universe and the cosmos all came together, or at least in this universe came together, and boom, we got the Big Bang or whatever. That's great and dandy, except for that gas, when it heats up, and when it was being smushed together, they say that there was a lot of heat when this happened, when the Big Bang happened. When gas heats up, it expands and pushes out. It doesn't gather together. It would be pushed out of this area. It would not be clustered in one spot. And if that were true, then we could just about guess that all the planets that were relative to Earth's size would have a relative atmosphere, an atmosphere that was just about the same. And there's been plant life and stuff, but then we have to look at, well, there's plant life, but they've also found dried up riverbeds in places like Mars that show that there has been water there, but there has not been, and there still is no atmosphere. Now, if everything died off, cool. But there's nothing if everything died off, there's nothing to consume that atmosphere. There would be an atmosphere still lingering there, and the atmosphere that's there is not one that can sustain life whatsoever. It actually, weird little science note, we can actually use the Mars atmosphere to, we can convert it into jet fuel, which is our NASA's quote-unquote plan for when we finally get our butts up and go to Mars. And so there's that problem with gas and stuff, and it just doesn't seem plausible. The Cro-Magnon man, and how they just blatantly lied, and they said, this is what Cro-Magnon man looks like, and they give you a picture, they give you a drawing, they tell you that that's what he looks like, but they never tell you how they came to that conclusion. Now, if you look up Cro-Magnon man, you look up the history of it, he was I believe it was in Montana, if I'm not mistaken. They found him, Montana or Wyoming, I forget which one. They found him, and they quote-unquote found him. They found a tooth in the ground. A tooth that was a resemblance of it resembled a half man and a half monkey tooth, but they weren't sure, or half ape tooth, but they weren't sure what it was, so they just said that it was half man, half ape, and then they built a man around a tooth. That's not science, that's just a hypothesis, but they put it in science books and they talk about it like it is fact, which is ridiculous to me. Now, all the people that we've ever dug up, they had hunchbacks and they had, weird disfigurements. 95% of those things have been proven that they had some kind of disease, they had some kind of surgery, like in the Egyptians, they had gigantic skulls that came out to here that look like cone heads. That kind of fit into the Pharaoh's wives and some of his mistresses, if you will, wore these long hats, and their skulls would fit in there, and they saw that was from surgery. So we know that wasn't a weird evolutionary thing. which was absolutely ridiculous when I was reading into that, because I was like, whoa, there's something weird about those people. And then they just had some they had some skull surgery, brain surgery and whatnot. And the list goes on how they mislead people and tell people that there's fact out there. The fact. I bought it into in high school. I used to be an atheist. I used to be a very devout, if you will, atheist. Used to say horrible things to creationists, not just people that were Christian or Muslims or whatever, but people of all faiths, period. Just people that believed in something other than the fact that this is just an accident, that we're all here. I was like, you really think that there's some great deity father up there that's telling us yes and no and whatnot, and he's going to punish us after we're dead? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then I started actually reading. I read the Bible before, but I just never really retained it. I read it because it was an assignment for me for going to church when I was younger. But I never really read it to understand it. So I read it to understand it and looked at the scientific things that it had been saying, and then weighed them against the things that we know that are factual, and looked at how they arrived at those conclusions that they were factual, and saw that the Bible is spot on with just about every single thing that it has been spot on with everything that I've actually evaluated. But every single thing that is like crazy out there, the dinosaurs and all that jazz, is explainable and understandable. And even the giants, even scientists agree that the Earth had some kind of layer of water over it. The Bible says that it didn't rain in the Garden of Eden, and it just misted over the land. It never rained. They know that would have, all the water up in the air would have caused a lot of pressure. You increase the pressure, the plants grow bigger. You have more carbon dioxide, more oxygen, all that jazz. You get bigger animals. The Bible talks about giants. It talks about giant people. It talks about giant animals, beasts, if you will. And the proofs are out there. It's just factual. We see trees. They tell you that the world is millions of years old, and billions, 4.6 billion years old. But yet we have trees that are growing through millions of years of dirt, and they're stuck inside this dirt. And yet people tell you that that's just they don't really have an explanation. That's just a freak thing. No, that's not a freak thing. That's an obvious evidence that you're wrong. You have a tree that would have to be hundreds of millions of years old for your analogy to work, because this tree is growing up 70 feet tall through millions and millions of years of dirt, and you have no explanation for it. But yet my belief system does have an answer for it. Before you could be able to explain it, it said that there was a giant flood, and when you look at them, some of them are knocked down, some of them are standing straight up. That's just how it is. Now we know that trees will stand up in water. For all those people, it would just be knocked down if there was a flood. We do know that it will stay standing straight up. Where they had Mount St. Helens exploded, some of the trees fell into the lake, and they stood straight up, not because they fell and they shot into the water and landed into the lake, but they floated out there, and then they sunk to the bottom, and they ended up landing straight up, and they're still stuck in there. So we know that just looking at the Bible versus atheism, or not atheism, but science, that there's a lot of flaws that are unexplained, and they seem to be explained perfectly in the Bible. Go ahead and respond if you want to. Go green, and I will be waiting for your response.